The rain hit Maria's face like tiny needles, mixing with tears she didn't remember starting to cry. Her suitcase landed in a puddle with a splash that soaked through her jeans. Then came the box of her things, her clothes spilling onto the wet pavement like discarded trash. "And no one will ever want you," Greg screamed from the doorway of what used to be their home. His face was twisted with disgust, like he was looking at something rotten. "You're useless. A burden." Maria's hands shook as she tried to gather her belongings. Their neighbors were watching from windows, some recording on their phones. Mrs. Patterson from next door stood on her porch with her hand over her mouth. The humiliation burned hotter than any physical pain could. "After all I did," Maria's voice cracked, barely audible over the storm. "This is how you end us. Greg, I supported you through everything. I worked 2 jobs when you went back to school. I believed in you." Greg laughed. The sound was cruel, cold, nothing like the man she married 5 years ago. "Supported me? You held me back. Brittany understands me. She doesn't nag. She doesn't complain. She actually cares about how I feel." Brittany. The name felt like poison. Greg's co-worker from the sales department. Maria had met her at the company picnic last summer. She remembered Brittany's long red hair, her loud laugh, the way she touched Greg's arm when she talked. Maria had pushed down the uncomfortable feeling in her stomach that day, telling herself she was being paranoid. She wasn't paranoid. She was right. "I gave you everything," Maria whispered, looking up at the man she'd loved. 5 years of my life. "And you got a roof over your head and food to eat," Greg shot back. "What more did you want? A medal? You should be grateful I kept you around this long." Another box hit the ground. This one had her books, the novels she'd collected since childhood. The cardboard was already soaking through. Maria watched pages curl and warp in the rain. "Go ahead, try," Greg continued, his voice dripping with contempt. "Try to make it on your own. You'll come crawling back within a week, begging me to take you back. And you know what? I might not be here when you do." Maria looked at her things scattered across the sidewalk. Everything she owned fit in 2 boxes and 1 suitcase. When had her life become so small? She remembered the girl she used to be, the one who wanted to study art, who dreamed of opening her own gallery someday. That girl died slowly, piece by piece, as she became Mrs. Greg Hamilton. "I won't come back," she said quietly. "What was that?" Greg cupped his ear mockingly. "I couldn't hear you over the sound of your life falling apart. I said I won't come back." Maria's voice was stronger now. She stood up, water dripping from her hair, her clothes plastered to her skin. "I won't beg. I won't crawl. I'm done." Greg's smile faltered for just a second. Then it came back, meaner than before. "Sure you are. We'll see how long that attitude lasts when you're sleeping in your car." "Oh wait, you don't even have a car." "I paid for that too." He slammed the door. The sound echoed down the quiet street. Maria heard the deadbolt click into place, final and absolute. She stood there in the rain looking at the closed door. Behind it was everything familiar. The couch they'd picked out together. The kitchen where she'd made dinner every night. The bedroom where they'd talked about having kids someday. All of it was gone now, replaced by Brittany's presence. Brittany, who was probably inside right now, maybe even watching through the window, satisfied that she'd won. Mrs. Patterson came down from her porch with an umbrella. "Maria, honey, do you need to call someone? Do you have somewhere to go?" Maria's parents had died in a car accident when she was 20. She had a brother in California, but they hadn't spoken in 3 years after he told her Greg was bad news. Her friends from college had drifted away as Greg isolated her, complaining whenever she made plans without him. She'd left her job 6 months ago when Greg said his salary was enough and she should focus on making their home nice. "I'm fine," Maria lied. "Thank you, Mrs. Patterson." The older woman pressed something into Maria's hand. 2 $20 bills. "Take this. Get yourself a room somewhere dry tonight. And honey, you're better off without him. I've heard him yelling at you through the walls for years." Maria wanted to feel ashamed that her neighbors knew, but she was too numb. She took the money with shaking fingers. "Thank you." She gathered her things as best she could. The suitcase was salvageable. 1 box was too waterlogged to carry. She had to abandon it, watching her books float in the puddle like ships sinking. The other box she could manage if she carried it carefully. Her phone buzzed. A text from Greg. "Left your wedding ring on the counter. Guess you won't be needing it anymore. LOL." Maria blocked his number. It felt like closing a chapter in a book she never wanted to read again. The nearest motel was 8 blocks away. Maria had passed it 100 times, never thinking she'd need it. The neon sign buzzed and flickered. Vacancy. Hourly or nightly rates. The walk took 40 minutes because she had to stop every few minutes to rest. Her arms ached. Her shoulders burned. The suitcase wheels kept catching on cracks in the sidewalk. By the time she reached the motel office, she was soaked through to her skin and shivering. The clerk behind the bulletproof glass didn't look up from his phone. $50 for the night. Cash only. Maria had $63 in her wallet. She'd been saving for Greg's birthday present, some stupid golf clubs he'd been hinting about. She slid $50 through the slot. Room 12. No visitors. No noise after 10. Checkout is 11. The room smelled like cigarettes and bleach. The carpet had stains Maria didn't want to identify. The bed had a thin floral comforter that had probably been washed 1,000 times. But it was dry. It was shelter. It was hers for the next 12 hours. Maria set her suitcase on the bed and hung her wet clothes over the shower rod. She had one dry outfit left, sweatpants and a t-shirt from a 5K run they'd done 3 years ago. Back when things were still good. Or when she'd still believed they were good. She sat on the bed and finally let herself cry. Not quiet tears, but deep, gut-wrenching sobs that made her whole body shake. She cried for the 5 years she'd given to a man who saw her as disposable. She cried for the dreams she'd set aside. She cried for how small and worthless he'd made her feel. Her phone buzzed. She'd forgotten to block Greg's work number. Brittany says you can pick up the rest of your stuff next week. If there's anything left. We might have a garage sale. Maria turned off her phone completely. The room had a small window facing the parking lot. Through it, she could see the rain still falling, washing the streets clean. In the distance, lightning flickered across the sky. No thunder followed. Just the silent flash of light against darkness. Tomorrow she would figure out what to do. Tomorrow she would make a plan. Tomorrow she would start putting her life back together. But tonight she let herself break. Maria woke to sunlight streaming through the thin curtains. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then everything crashed back. Greg's face. The rain. The door slamming shut. Her phone showed it was 8:30. She had 2.5 hours before checkout. $13 left in her wallet. No job. No home. No plan. She took a shower in the tiny bathroom, using the small soap bar and the shampoo bottle that was barely bigger than her thumb. The hot water felt like mercy against her skin. She stood under it until it started running cold, then forced herself to get out. Her reflection in the mirror looked like a stranger. Her dark brown eyes had circles underneath them. Her black hair hung limp and tangled. She looked older than 27. She looked defeated. "You're not defeated," she told her reflection. "You're free." The words felt hollow, but she repeated them anyway. Maria packed her few belongings and checked out at exactly 11. The clerk didn't look at her, didn't ask if she needed anything. She was just another person passing through. Outside the sun was bright. The storm had cleared everything, leaving the air crisp and clean. Maria had no idea where to go. The library maybe. It was free. It was warm. She could use the computers to look for jobs and apartments. She started walking, pulling her suitcase behind her. The wheels made a rhythmic clicking sound on the pavement. Click, click, click. Like a countdown to something. The coffee shop on 5th Street had a help wanted sign in the window. Maria went inside, the bell above the door chiming. The smell of fresh coffee and pastries made her stomach growl. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten. "Can I help you?" The barista was young, maybe 20, with purple streaks in her blonde hair. "I saw your sign. Are you still hiring?" The girl looked her up and down, taking in the suitcase, the wrinkled clothes. "You need to apply online. The owner doesn't take paper applications anymore." "Right. Thank you." Maria bought the cheapest thing on the menu, a small black coffee for $2. That left her with $11. She sat at a corner table and made the coffee last as long as possible, taking tiny sips. At the next table, a man in an expensive suit was working on his laptop. He had silver hair and kind eyes, the kind that crinkled at the corners. He looked distinguished, successful. Everything Greg pretended to be but never was. Maria pulled out her phone and started searching for job listings. Most required experience she didn't have or degrees she'd never finished. She'd been 2 semesters away from her art history degree when she met Greg. He'd convinced her to drop out and work instead, promising they'd go back when they were more stable financially. That was 5 years ago. "Excuse me." Maria looked up. The man from the next table was standing beside her. Up close, she could see he was older than she first thought, maybe 55 or 60. But he had the kind of face that wore age well. "I'm sorry to bother you," he said. "But you look like you could use some breakfast. Would you mind if I bought you something to eat?" Maria's first instinct was to refuse. She didn't take charity. She didn't need pity. But her stomach chose that moment to growl loudly, betraying her. "I don't want to impose," she said carefully. "It's not an imposition. I'm Jonathan Pierce. I hate eating alone and you look like you could use some company." There was something genuine in his expression. No judgment. No ulterior motive that she could detect. Just kindness. "Maria," she said. "Maria Torres. It's nice to meet you, Maria. What would you like?" She ordered a breakfast sandwich and orange juice. Jonathan got a muffin and more coffee. They sat across from each other and for a few minutes, they ate in comfortable silence. "Are you job hunting?" Jonathan asked, nodding at her phone. "Is it that obvious?" "The suitcase gives it away. You're either job hunting or running away from something. Sometimes both." Maria found herself smiling just a little. "Both, I think." "Do you want to talk about it?" She didn't. But somehow, sitting across from this stranger who'd bought her breakfast, the story started spilling out. Not all of it. She didn't mention Greg's name or the specific details. But she told him about the failed marriage, being kicked out, having nowhere to go. Jonathan listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry that happened to you," he said finally. "Nobody deserves to be treated that way." He said no one would ever want me. The words came out before Maria could stop them. "That I'm useless." "He's wrong." Jonathan's voice was firm. "Cruelty says more about the person being cruel than it does about their target. You seem like a capable, intelligent woman who ended up with someone who didn't deserve you." Maria felt tears prickling at her eyes. She blinked them back. "I don't even know why I'm telling you this. I'm sorry." "Don't apologize. Sometimes it helps to talk to a stranger. We have no history, no expectations. Just two people sharing coffee." They talked for another hour. Jonathan told her about his work. He was the CEO of Pierce Industries, a manufacturing company with offices across the state. His wife had passed away 5 years ago from cancer. His daughter lived in New York and called every Sunday. He filled his time with work and reading and morning walks. "I have a guest house," Jonathan said suddenly, "behind my main house. It's been empty since my daughter moved out. You're welcome to stay there while you get back on your feet." Maria's guard went up immediately. "I can't accept that." "Why not?" "Because I don't know you. Because people don't just do things like that. Because there's always a catch." Jonathan nodded slowly. "You're right to be cautious. The world has taught you that kindness usually has a price. But I promise you there's no catch. I have space I'm not using. You need space. It's simple math. I can't pay rent. I have $11. I'm not asking for rent. Stay as long as you need. The only condition is that you work on getting back on your feet. Find a job. Build yourself back up. When you're ready to move on, you move on." Maria studied his face looking for the lie. But all she saw was genuine concern. Maybe it was stupid. Maybe it was dangerous. But she was out of options. "Okay," she said quietly. "Thank you." Jonathan smiled. "Don't thank me yet. The guest house hasn't been used in a while. It might need some cleaning." He drove her there in his car, a modest sedan that surprised her. She'd expected something flashy. The house was in a nice neighborhood, the kind with trees lining the streets and kids playing in yards. The main house was beautiful but not ostentatious. 2 stories, painted gray with white trim. The guest house was around back, connected by a stone path. It was small, just a studio with a bathroom, but it was clean and had a bed and a kitchenette. "The sheets are in the closet," Jonathan said. "There's some basic food in the mini fridge. Nothing fancy but enough to get you through a few days. I'll have my housekeeper bring more tomorrow." "Why are you doing this?" Maria asked. "Really?" Jonathan was quiet for a moment. 5 years ago I watched my wife die. I had all the money in the world, but I couldn't save her. It taught me that money is just paper unless you do something meaningful with it. Maybe this is me trying to balance the scales. Or maybe I just don't like seeing people suffer when I can help. He handed her a key. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we'll work on your resume and start looking for jobs. But today just breathe." After he left, Maria sat on the bed and looked around the small space. It smelled like cleaning products and fresh air. The window looked out on a small garden with roses and lavender. For the first time in 24 hours she felt safe. Morning came with bird songs outside the window. Maria woke slowly, confused by the unfamiliar ceiling. Then she remembered. The guest house. Jonathan. The unexpected kindness of a stranger. She checked her phone. 2 missed calls from an unknown number. Probably Greg using someone else's phone. She didn't listen to the voicemails. A knock on the door made her jump. She opened it to find an older woman with gray hair pulled back in a neat bun. She wore jeans and a purple sweater and carried a basket of groceries. "Good morning. I'm Ruth, Mr. Pierce's housekeeper. He asked me to bring you some supplies." Maria took the basket. It was heavy, filled with bread, eggs, milk, fruit, coffee, and other basics. "Thank you. This is too much." Ruth waved her hand. "Nonsense. Mr. Pierce said you'd try to refuse. He also said to ignore you and bring it anyway." She smiled, her whole face crinkling. "He's stubborn like that. Gets it from his late wife. She was the same way, always helping people. He seems very kind." "He is. Lost himself a bit when Mrs. Pierce passed. Threw himself into work, barely came home. But the last year or so he's been coming back to himself. It's good to see." Ruth studied Maria with sharp eyes. "You running from someone?" Maria hesitated. "My husband. Ex-husband, I guess." "He hurt you?" "Not physically. Just..." Maria trailed off. "Sometimes the words hurt worse than fists," Ruth said softly. "I know something about that. My first husband had a way of making me feel about 2 inches tall. Took me 10 years to leave him." "How did you do it?" "One day at a time. One foot in front of the other. And I learned that the voice in my head telling me I was worthless wasn't mine. It was his. Once I figured that out, I could start building my own voice again." Ruth stayed for coffee. She told Maria about the neighborhood, pointed out which grocery store had the best prices, warned her about the corner where teenagers liked to speed. Normal things. Things that made Maria feel human again. Around noon, Jonathan knocked. He had a laptop under his arm and a determined expression. "Resume time," he announced. "Ruth said you two had a good talk." They sat at the small table and Jonathan opened a blank document. "Tell me about your work history." "It's not much. I worked at a bookstore through college. Then I did data entry for a law firm. Then I waited tables for a while. After I got married, I worked part-time at a dry cleaner until 6 months ago." "What did you study in college?" "Art history. I didn't finish." "Why art history?" Maria thought about it. "I love how art captures moments in time. How a painting or sculpture can tell you about an entire culture, an entire era. I wanted to work in a gallery or museum someday." Jonathan typed quickly. "What stopped you?" "Life, I guess. Money. Priorities changed." "His priorities, you mean?" Maria looked up. Jonathan's expression was neutral, but his eyes were knowing. "I'm not trying to attack your ex," he said. "But I've seen this pattern before. Someone with dreams meets someone who finds those dreams threatening. So slowly, piece by piece, those dreams get put aside until the person forgets they ever had them." "Is that what happened to you?" "In a way. I wanted to be a teacher. Matt. I loved it. But my father owned Pierce Industries and expected me to take over. So I did. I don't regret it exactly. But sometimes I wonder about that other life." They worked on the resume for 2 hours. Jonathan had connections in the art world through his late wife, who had been a patron of several galleries. He made some calls while Maria listened in amazement. "I have an interview set up for you," he said finally. "Thursday at the Riverside Gallery. It's just assistant work to start, but the owner is a friend. She'll give you a fair shot." "I can't believe you did that." "Believe it. Now let's talk about interview skills." They practiced questions and answers. Jonathan played the tough interviewer, asking difficult questions about gaps in her work history and her lack of degree. Maria stumbled at first, then found her footing. She talked about her love of art, her organizational skills, her ability to learn quickly. "You're going to do great," Jonathan said when they finished. That night, Maria cooked dinner with the groceries Ruth had brought. Simple pasta with tomato sauce. She invited Jonathan to eat with her, feeling awkward about the power imbalance but wanting to show gratitude somehow. He accepted. They ate at the small table talking about books and movies and music. Normal conversation. Maria couldn't remember the last time she'd had a conversation like this with Greg. Everything with him had become transactional. "Did you pick up my dry cleaning? Did you remember to pay the electric bill? Why is the house such a mess? Can I ask you something?" Maria said. "Why haven't you remarried? I mean, you clearly have a lot to offer." Jonathan smiled sadly. "I loved my wife very much. Everyone tells me I should move on, find someone new. But I'm not looking. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I had 40 years with the love of my life. That's more than most people get." "That's beautiful." "It's lonely sometimes," he admitted. "The house feels too big. Too quiet. But I have my work and my friends and my daughter. It's enough. Maria cleaned up the dishes while Jonathan sat with more coffee. When she turned around, he was watching her with a thoughtful expression. What? She asked. You're resilient. You've been through something traumatic, but you're already thinking about next steps. That takes strength. I don't feel strong. Strength isn't the absence of fear or pain. It's moving forward despite them. The next few days fell into a pattern. Maria would wake up, make breakfast, and spend the morning looking for jobs online. Jonathan would check in around lunch, bringing news of other potential opportunities. Ruth would stop by with groceries or just to chat. In the evenings, Maria would walk around the neighborhood, slowly learning the streets. She felt herself changing. The tightness in her chest was easing. She smiled more. She started sketching again, something she hadn't done in years. Just simple drawings in a notebook Ruth had given her, but it felt like reconnecting with a lost part of herself. Thursday came. The interview. Maria wore her best outfit, a green dress she'd forgotten she owned. Jonathan had offered to drive her, but she took the bus. She needed to do this herself. The Riverside Gallery was small but elegant. White walls, polished floors, carefully curated pieces. The owner, Helen Wright, was a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and an even sharper wit. Jonathan tells me you have an eye for art, Helen said after the basic pleasantries. I like to think so. Tell me about that piece. Helen pointed to a painting on the wall. Abstract shapes in blues and greens. Maria studied it. It's interesting. The artist is playing with negative space, using the white of the canvas as part of the composition. The color palette suggests water or sky, but the geometric shapes grounded in something more urban, like they're trying to reconcile nature and human construction. Helen smiled. You just passed the real interview. When can you start? Maria blinked. Really? Really? I need someone who understands art, not just someone who can answer phones. You clearly get it. The job is part-time to start, minimum wage plus commission if you make sales. Hours are flexible. Interested? Yes. Absolutely yes. They shook hands. Maria walked out of the gallery feeling like she was floating. She had a job. A real job in a field she loved. She couldn't wait to tell Jonathan. Maria started at the Riverside Gallery on Monday. The work was simple at first, answering phones, greeting visitors, keeping the space tidy. But Helen quickly gave her more responsibility, asking her opinion on new pieces, letting her rearrange displays, teaching her about pricing and sales. You have good instincts, Helen said after Maria's first week. Trust them. The gallery attracted an interesting mix of people. Serious collectors in expensive suits. Young couples looking for something to brighten their first apartment. Art students studying techniques. Tourists killing time between other destinations. Maria learned to read people, to know when to approach and when to give space. She made her first sale on her second Wednesday. A small landscape piece to a retired teacher who was redecorating after her divorce. The woman had tears in her eyes when she bought it. It reminds me that there's beauty after endings, she said. Maria understood completely. The commission check was modest, but it felt like winning the lottery. She had earned something through her own skills and knowledge. Not because someone gave it to her out of pity, because she was good at what she did. She celebrated by buying groceries and cooking dinner for Jonathan and Ruth. Nothing fancy, just chicken and vegetables, but she made it from scratch. They ate in Jonathan's dining room, a beautiful space Maria had only glimpsed before. This is delicious, Jonathan said. Where did you learn to cook? My mother. She said cooking was love made edible. She sounds wonderful. She was. I miss her every day. Ruth patted Maria's hand. They never really leave us. My mama has been gone 30 years, but I still hear her voice sometimes, usually when I'm about to do something foolish. They laughed. The sound filled the big house, making it feel less empty. After dinner, Maria helped clean up. Ruth had already gone home. Jonathan was drying dishes while Maria washed. Can I ask you something personal? Maria said. Of course. Do you ever get angry? About your wife, I mean. About losing her. Jonathan was quiet for a moment. Every day. Not at her. At cancer. At the universe. At the unfairness of it all. She was only 53. We were supposed to have decades more together. How do you deal with it? I don't always deal with it well. The first year I buried myself in work. 18-hour days, 7 days a week. My daughter finally staged an intervention. Made me see a therapist. That helped. So did time. The pain doesn't go away, but you learn to carry it better. Greg never wanted to talk about feelings. He said it was weak. Greg sounds like an idiot. Maria laughed, surprised. He is. I just couldn't see it before. Love makes us blind sometimes, especially when someone is good at manipulation. They finished the dishes in comfortable silence. Then Jonathan poured them each a glass of wine and they sat in his living room. The space was full of photos. Jonathan and his wife on their wedding day. Their daughter at various ages. Family vacations and holidays. Tell me about her, Maria said. Jonathan's face softened. Catherine was a force of nature. She never met a stranger. She talked to anyone about anything. She volunteered at 3 different charities, served on the boards of 2 museums, and still found time to pack my lunch every day. She sounds amazing. She was. She also snored like a chainsaw and couldn't cook to save her life. But she was perfect to me. Do you think you'll ever find that again? I don't know. Part of me thinks that kind of love only comes once in a lifetime. But Catherine wouldn't want me to be alone forever. She'd probably be planning my wedding herself if she could. They talked until late. Maria learned about Jonathan's childhood, his struggles taking over the company, his fears about retirement. Jonathan learned about Maria's parents, her brother who she missed, her dreams of someday opening her own gallery. Why don't you? Jonathan asked. I have no money. No experience running a business. No connections. You have connections now. And experience is just time plus willingness to learn. As for money, that can be solved. I'm not taking a loan from you. I wasn't offering one. But there are small business grants, investors looking for new ventures. It's possible. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but someday. The idea planted itself in Maria's brain. Her own gallery. It seemed impossible. But 3 weeks ago, having any job seemed impossible. Maybe impossible just meant not yet. Over the next month, Maria settled into her new life. She took evening classes in art history at the community college, finishing the degree she'd abandoned. Jonathan helped her study, quizzing her on dates and movements and techniques. Helen promoted her to assistant manager, doubling her hours and her pay. Maria started saving money, opening her own bank account for the first time in 5 years. Seeing her name on the debit card made her ridiculously happy. She made friends with some of the other gallery employees. Sophie was a painter working on her MFA. Lucas was a sculptor who also taught high school art. They went out for drinks after work sometimes, talking about art and life and everything in between. Maria felt herself coming back to life. Not the person she was before Greg. Someone new. Someone stronger. She still had nightmares sometimes. Dreams where Greg was screaming at her, telling her she was worthless. She'd wake up shaking, heart pounding. But the dreams came less often now. One Saturday, Jonathan took her to an art museum 2 hours away. There was a special exhibit on Renaissance art, one of Maria's favorite periods. They spent hours walking through galleries, studying paintings and sculptures. You really love this, Jonathan observed. I do. Art connects us to history, to other cultures, to emotions we can't express with words. It's like a universal language. You should be teaching. Maybe someday. On the drive back, Maria's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. She almost deleted it without looking, assuming it was Greg. But something made her check. It was her brother, Sam. Hey. Heard through the grapevine you left Greg. Good. He was always trash. Call me if you need anything. Maria stared at the message. She and Sam hadn't spoken since their fight about Greg. He'd been right about everything and she'd been too stubborn to admit it. She called him. Maria? His voice was cautious. Hi, Sam. I'm sorry. About what happened. Are you okay? I'm getting there. I'm sorry too. For not listening. They talked for an hour. Sam was married now, had a baby daughter named Amy. He was working as a software engineer and living in San Diego. He wanted her to visit. I'd like that, Maria said. After she hung up, Jonathan glanced over. Good call? My brother. We're talking again. That's good. Family is important. What if they're toxic? Then sometimes distance is important. But if they're willing to grow and change, second chances can be worth it. Maria thought about Greg. He'd left more voicemails, sent more texts from different numbers. They all said the same thing. He'd made a mistake. Brittany was awful. He wanted Maria back. She never responded. 3 months after Greg kicked her out, Maria stood in front of the bathroom mirror and barely recognized herself. Her hair was longer, healthier, shining in the light. Her eyes were bright. She'd gained back the weight she'd lost from stress. She looked alive. The art class was tonight. Jonathan had enrolled her as a birthday present, even though her birthday wasn't for 2 more months. Beginning oil painting Wednesday nights at the community center. Maria had never painted before, only sketched. The idea terrified and excited her. She wore her favorite red sweater and jeans. Comfortable but confident. Sophie had helped her pick out supplies, explaining the difference between various brushes and canvas types. Maria's small collection sat in a box by the door. "You're going to do great," Jonathan said. He'd insisted on driving her, claiming he wanted to grab dinner nearby anyway. "What if I'm terrible?" "Then you'll be terrible. But you'll be terrible while doing something you love. That's better than being good at something you hate." The class was held in a bright room with huge windows. 8 easels were set up in a circle. The other students were already there, setting up their supplies. They ranged from teenagers to retirees, all looking as nervous as Maria felt. The instructor was a man in his 40s with paint-stained clothes and an easy smile. "I'm Tom. Welcome to the wonderful mess that is oil painting. Rule number 1, there are no mistakes, only happy accidents. Rule number 2, wear clothes you don't mind ruining." They started with basic color mixing. Tom demonstrated how to blend primary colors into secondaries, how to add white for tints and black for shades. Maria found herself mesmerized by the way the colors swirled together on her palette. "Now paint whatever you want," Tom said. "Don't think too hard. Just feel." Maria stared at the blank canvas. Then, without planning it, she started painting. Blue first, deep and rich. Then green, then white mixed in to create lighter shades. She was painting water. An ocean or lake, she wasn't sure. The brush moved across the canvas like it had a mind of its own. Time disappeared. She was only vaguely aware of Tom moving around the room, offering suggestions and encouragement. She added texture, movement, depth. Not perfect. Not even close. But it was hers. "That's beautiful," said the woman painting next to her. She was older, maybe 60, working on a bowl of fruit. "First time?" "With oils, yes. You have a natural eye for color." "I'm Diane." "Maria." They painted in comfortable silence after that. When the class ended, Maria stood back and looked at her work. It was rough, amateurish, probably terrible by any objective standard. But she loved it. Tom came over. "Nice work. You're not afraid of color. That's good. Most beginners are too timid. I just went with my gut. Keep doing that. Technique can be taught. Instinct can't." Jonathan was waiting in the lobby when she emerged, her canvas carefully wrapped in paper. "Can I see?" Maria unwrapped it, suddenly nervous about his reaction. He studied it for a long moment. "It's wonderful," he said finally. "You captured movement. That's not easy." "Really? Really? Catherine collected art, remember? I've seen enough to know talent when I see it." They got dinner at a small Italian place. Maria couldn't stop talking about the class, about color theory and brush techniques and the way Tom explained things. Jonathan listened with an amused smile. "I haven't seen you this excited about anything," he said. "I feel like I found something I didn't know I was missing." "Maybe you're finding yourself." At the gallery the next day, Helen noticed something different. "You're glowing. What happened?" Maria told her about the painting class. Helen's eyes lit up. "We should do a student show," she said. "Local artists, emerging talent. We could rotate it monthly. Would your class be interested?" "I think so. I can ask." The idea thrilled Maria. Showing her work in an actual gallery, even as part of a group show, felt impossible and wonderful. Meanwhile, across town, Greg's life was falling apart. Brittany had moved out after 3 weeks, taking his laptop and his expensive watch. She'd maxed out his credit cards and blocked his number. His apartment was a mess, dirty dishes piled in the sink and trash overflowing. Work wasn't much better. He'd missed 2 important deadlines. His boss, Jonathan Pierce, had called him in for a meeting about his performance. Greg had tried to explain about his personal problems, but Pierce wasn't interested in excuses. "Either your work improves or we'll have to consider other options," Pierce had said. Greg had no idea Pierce was helping Maria. He still thought of his ex-wife as broken, helpless, probably living in some rat-infested apartment somewhere. It never occurred to him that she might be thriving. He tried calling her dozens of times. Her number was disconnected. He'd driven by the motel where she'd stayed that first night, but they had no forwarding information. It was like she'd vanished. Good riddance, he told himself. But late at night, alone in his messy apartment, he wondered if he'd made a mistake. Not because he loved her, but because she'd made his life comfortable, and now nothing was comfortable anymore. Maria didn't think about Greg much anymore. When she did, it was with pity more than anger. He'd wasted both their lives. She was reclaiming hers. Sophie invited her to a gallery opening downtown. Maria wore a blue dress she'd bought with her commission money. The gallery was crowded with people drinking wine and discussing the art on the walls. "You look amazing," Sophie said. "Seriously, you're glowing." "I feel good. Actually good, not pretending good." A man approached them, tall with dark hair and glasses. "Sophie, right? We met at the Martinez opening." "All right. This is my friend Maria. Maria, this is James. He runs the West Side Contemporary Gallery." They shook hands. James had an intense way of looking at people like he was trying to see inside them. "What do you do, Maria?" "I work at Riverside Gallery. Assistant manager." "Helen Wright's place?" "She has excellent taste." "Are you an artist yourself?" "Just starting. Taking painting classes." "I'd love to see your work sometime." Maria gave him her phone number, then immediately wondered if she should have. Was he hitting on her? Just networking? She was out of practice with this kind of interaction. "He's nice," Sophie said later. "Single, runs a successful gallery, genuinely loves art. You could do worse." "I'm not looking for anything like that." "I know. But eventually you might be. And when you are, it's good to know nice single men exist." Maria thought about it on the bus ride home. She wasn't ready for dating. The idea of trusting someone that way again made her stomach hurt. But Sophie was right. Eventually, maybe. Someday. Jonathan was sitting on his porch when she got back. He waved her over. "How was the opening?" "Good. I met someone who runs another gallery. He asked to see my work." "That's great. Are you going to show him?" "I don't know. I only have one finished painting. And it's probably terrible." "It's not terrible. And even if it was, the only way to get better is to keep making things and showing them to people. Catherine used to say that art dies in darkness." She really was wise. She had her moments. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars come out. Maria felt grateful. For this place. For Jonathan's kindness. For the chance to rebuild. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For everything. I don't know where I'd be without you. You'd have figured it out. You're stronger than you think." "I don't feel strong. Strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just showing up every day and doing the work." Maria smiled. "When did you become so philosophical?" "Grief teaches you things. So does getting older. Though I'd trade all the wisdom for one more day with Catherine. I hope I find love like that someday." "You will. When you're ready. And with someone who deserves you." The Pierce Industries annual gala was a major event. Black tie, expensive venue, everyone who was anyone in the business community. Jonathan had mentioned it casually over breakfast, then asked if Maria would like to attend as his guest. "I need someone to talk to who won't bore me with golf stories," he'd said with a smile. Maria's first instinct was to refuse. She didn't belong at fancy events. She didn't have anything to wear. She'd embarrass herself. But then she remembered Greg's voice. "You're useless. No one will ever want you. You don't belong anywhere." "I'd love to," she said. Helen helped her find a dress, taking her to a consignment shop where they found a stunning blue gown that fit perfectly. Ruth did her hair, pulling it up in an elegant twist. Maria barely recognized herself in the mirror. "You look like a princess," Ruth said. "No better. You look like yourself." Jonathan wore a classic black suit. He smiled when Maria came down from the guest house. "You look beautiful. You don't think it's too much?" "It's perfect." The venue was downtown, a historic building with marble floors and crystal chandeliers. Maria felt out of place immediately, surrounded by people in expensive clothes discussing things she didn't understand. But Jonathan stayed close, introducing her to people, explaining inside jokes, making sure she felt included. "This is Maria Torres," he'd say. "She's the assistant manager at Riverside Gallery and a talented emerging artist." The way he said it made it sound important. Real. They were talking to a couple who owned a chain of restaurants when Maria saw him. Greg. Standing by the bar in an ill-fitting suit, looking uncomfortable and angry. Her heart stopped. Of course he was here. He worked for Pierce Industries. She'd known that intellectually, but somehow hadn't connected it to this event. Their eyes met across the room. Greg's expression went from surprise to confusion to something like rage. He started walking toward them. "Maria?" Jonathan sensed her tension. "What's wrong?" "That's him. That's Greg." Jonathan's expression didn't change, but something hardened in his eyes. "I see. Would you like to leave?" "No. I'm not running from him anymore." Greg pushed through the crowd, nearly knocking over someone's drink. "Maria, what are you doing here?" "Attending the gala." Her voice was steady even though her hands shook. With him? Greg looked at Jonathan with pure contempt. This is your boss, Pierce. You know that, right? He's old enough to be your father. Mr. Hamilton, Jonathan's voice was ice. I don't believe we've been properly introduced, though I am quite familiar with your work performance. Or lack thereof. Greg's face flushed red. This is a personal conversation. Not when it happens at a company event. And not when you're speaking disrespectfully to my guest. A woman appeared at Greg's side. Tall, thin, with red hair. Brittany. Maria recognized her from the company picnic all those months ago. Greg, what's going on? Brittany's eyes were sharp, taking in Maria's dress, her proximity to Jonathan. This is my wife. Ex-wife, Maria corrected. We're divorced. We're not divorced. You just left. You kicked me out. Remember? In the rain. While you and her watched. Brittany's eyes went wide. Greg, you told me your wife left you for another man. She did. Him, apparently. Greg gestured at Jonathan. That's not true, Maria said. Jonathan gave me a place to stay when I had nowhere to go. That's all. Oh, that's all? Greg's voice was mocking. He just let you move in out of the goodness of his heart? You're sleeping with him for rent. Jonathan stepped forward, his voice deadly calm. You have 3 seconds to apologize to Maria before I have security remove you from this event and place a formal complaint with Human Resources. You can't do that. I can. I'm the CEO. Watch me. People were staring now, the kind of attention that made Greg shrink. He'd always been brave when it was just him and Maria, but in front of an audience he was a coward. Whatever, he muttered. She's not worth it anyway. He stalked off. Brittany stayed for a moment, looking at Maria with something like curiosity. Is it true? Did he kick you out? In the rain. With all my stuff. While you were inside. Brittany's expression crumpled. He told me you left him. That you were cruel and cold. She paused. I'm starting to think he lied about a lot of things. She walked away, following Greg but keeping her distance. Maria watched them go, feeling nothing. No anger, no satisfaction. Just emptiness where feelings about Greg used to live. Are you okay? Jonathan asked softly. I am. Actually, I really am. They stayed at the gala for another hour. Jonathan made a point of introducing Maria to more people, including several gallery owners and art collectors. By the end of the night, she had 5 business cards and 3 offers to view her work. On the drive home, Jonathan was quiet. I'm sorry about that scene, Maria said. I didn't mean to cause drama at your company event. You didn't cause anything. You did. And I meant what I said. I'll be filing a complaint with HR on Monday. You don't have to do that. I do. Behavior like that is unacceptable. Plus, his work performance has been subpar for months. This just accelerates the inevitable. Will he be fired? Probably. Does that bother you? Maria thought about it. No. He made his choices. This is just consequences. Back at the guest house, Maria changed into comfortable clothes and made tea. She expected to feel shaken, but instead she felt strong. She'd faced Greg and hadn't crumbled. She'd stood her ground. Jonathan knocked an hour later, still in his suit but with the tie loosened. I wanted to make sure you're really okay. I am. It's strange. I thought seeing him would hurt or make me angry. But I just felt sorry for him. That's growth. Is that what this is? You've moved on. He hasn't. That's the difference. They sat on the small couch drinking tea. Outside, rain started to fall, gentle and steady. Catherine would have liked you, Jonathan said suddenly. She had a thing about people who reinvent themselves. Said it took courage most people don't have. I didn't have a choice. You did. You could have gone back to him. Begged like he expected. Instead you built something new. That's courage. Maria felt tears prickling her eyes. Thank you. For everything. For seeing me when I couldn't see myself. You did the hard part. I just provided a safe space. That night, Maria slept without nightmares for the first time since leaving Greg. Monday morning arrived with gray skies and drizzle. Maria was organizing the new exhibit at the gallery when her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You ruined my life. Happy? Greg. Still using random numbers to get around her blocks. She deleted it without responding. Helen noticed her expression. Everything okay? Ex-husband drama. Nothing I can't handle. You want to talk about it? Not really. But thank you. The morning passed quickly. A collector came in looking for something modern, and Maria helped him select a piece by a local abstract artist. Her commission on the sale would be substantial. 6 months ago, this kind of money would have been unimaginable. At lunch, Sophie dropped by with sandwiches. So I heard about the gala scene. Office gossip spreads fast. How did you hear about it? My cousin works in Pierce Industries accounting. She said Greg Hamilton made a scene with the CEO and got escorted out. That's not exactly what happened. Sophie studied her face. But something happened. Want to share? Maria told her the story. Sophie listened, her eyes getting wider. So you're living with the CEO, who is apparently a saint. And your ex saw you at the gala looking gorgeous and lost his mind. That's the short version. Maria, this is like a movie. What happens next? Nothing dramatic, hopefully. I just want to move forward. But moving forward proved complicated. Greg left more messages. Some apologetic, begging her to come back. Some angry, blaming her for his problems. Some just rambling, incoherent rants about how unfair everything was. Maria blocked each new number, but they kept coming. Jonathan called her Wednesday evening. We need to talk. Can you come to the main house? His tone was serious. Maria's stomach dropped. Had something happened? Was he asking her to leave? She found him in his office looking tired. Papers covered his desk. What's wrong? She asked. I had to let Greg go today. He was making mistakes, missing deadlines, and after Saturday's behavior, I had no choice. HR agreed it was justified. Okay. He knows you're staying here. He made threats. Not physical ones, but he's angry and unpredictable. I've arranged for additional security at the house. I also think you should consider a restraining order. Maria sat down heavily. He wouldn't actually hurt me. Would he? I don't know. But I'm not willing to take chances. People can become dangerous when they feel cornered. This is all my fault. No. Jonathan's voice was firm. This is his fault. His choices led here. You did nothing wrong. They filed for a restraining order on Thursday. Maria had to recount everything. The verbal abuse, the humiliation, the constant messages despite her requests to stop. The judge granted a temporary order with a hearing scheduled for the following month. Greg violated it within 24 hours, showing up at the gallery during Maria's shift. She saw him through the window before he came in and called the police. They arrived within minutes, arresting him for violating the order. You'll pay for this, he shouted as they led him away. You think you're so much better now. But you're nothing. You hear me? Nothing. Maria watched without emotion. His words didn't land anymore. They were just noise. Helen closed the gallery early, sending Maria home. Jonathan was waiting, pacing in his driveway. I heard what happened. Are you okay? I'm tired of this. I just want him to leave me alone. He will. The restraining order violation means jail time. At minimum, a few days. That should calm him down. But Greg's problems were multiplying. Brittany had left him after the gala, finally seeing through his lies. His landlord was threatening eviction for unpaid rent. His car had been repossessed. Everything was falling apart. He blamed Maria for all of it. In jail, he called his mother. You have to help me. This is all because of her. She's living with my boss, probably sleeping with him, and she got me fired. His mother, who had never liked Maria, believed him completely. That woman always was trouble. What do you need? Money for bail. A place to stay. A lawyer. She provided all three. Greg was out within 48 hours, angrier than before. His lawyer was expensive and told him the truth he didn't want to hear. You violated a restraining order. You made threatening statements. Your job fired you with cause. You have no legal recourse here. But she's the problem. No, you're the problem. My advice is to stay away from your ex-wife, get some counseling, and move on with your life. Greg fired the lawyer. Meanwhile, Maria was thriving despite the stress. The painting class had progressed to more advanced techniques. Her work was improving rapidly, Tom said. She'd completed 3 more pieces, each better than the last. Helen arranged the student art show for the following month. Maria's work would be featured alongside 7 other students. It wasn't a huge deal, but it felt momentous. Jonathan helped her frame her paintings, showing her how to present work professionally. They worked in comfortable silence, Maria lost in thought. Penny for your thoughts, Jonathan said. I was thinking about how different my life is now. 6 months ago, I thought my life was over. Now I have a job I love, art that makes me happy, friends who actually care about me. It's like I'm living someone else's life. You're living your own life. Finally. Sophie set her up on a blind date with a friend's brother. Maria almost refused, but Sophie was persistent. You don't have to marry him. Just dinner. Practice being human. His name was Kevin. He was nice, a teacher at a local high school. They had dinner at a casual restaurant. The conversation was pleasant but forced. There was no spark, no connection. "I'm sorry," Maria said over dessert. "You're great. I'm just not in the right headspace for this." "I understand." Fresh out of something? Something like that. They parted as friends, exchanging numbers to maybe get coffee sometime as just friends. Maria felt relieved. Dating was exhausting. She told Jonathan about it when she got home. He laughed. "What's funny?" she asked. "Nothing. It's just good to see you trying. Even if it doesn't work out, you're putting yourself out there. That takes courage. Or stupidity. Sometimes they're the same thing." Greg's life continued its downward spiral. The expensive lawyer his mother hired couldn't help him. The restraining order was made permanent. He had a record now which made finding new employment nearly impossible. He moved into his mother's basement, a humiliating return to adolescence. She constantly reminded him how much she was sacrificing, how ungrateful he was, how Maria had ruined everything. The narrative suited him. It was easier than accepting responsibility. He spent hours online stalking Maria's social media. She'd blocked him, but he could see some things through mutual acquaintances. She looked happy, healthy, thriving. It made him furious. Brittany had started dating someone new, a lawyer with his life together. She'd posted photos of them at nice restaurants at the beach looking happy. She'd never looked that happy with Greg. Everyone was moving on except him. He tried to get hired at other companies. But Pierce Industries was well respected in the community, and word spread about why he'd been fired. Making a scene at the company gala. Harassing his ex-wife. Violating a restraining order. No one wanted that kind of liability. His mother's patience wore thin after 3 months. "You need to figure this out. I can't support you forever. I'm trying. No one will hire me because of her. Maybe you should move. Start fresh somewhere else." The idea had merit. Away from Maria, from Jonathan Pierce, from all the reminders of his failures. Somewhere he could rewrite the story, make himself the victim. He started looking at jobs in other cities. Nothing local would work. Too many people knew the truth. At Pierce Industries, life moved on without him. Jonathan had hired a replacement, a young woman with an MBA who actually cared about doing good work. The department's performance improved immediately. Jonathan rarely thought about Greg anymore except when Maria brought him up. "He's still sending messages through other people," she told him over dinner one evening. "Friends of friends. Always the same thing. I ruined his life. I should give him another chance. Do you want to respond?" "No. There's nothing to say. We're done." He just can't accept it. Some people never do. They'd rather stay angry than move forward. "I pity him." Is that bad? It's human. Pity is better than hate. Hate keeps you connected. Pity lets you let go. Maria had turned 28 the week before. Jonathan and Ruth had thrown her a small party. Just the 3 of them, plus Sophie and Lucas from work and Tom from the painting class. Simple food, good conversation, laughter that filled the house. Jonathan gave her an easel. Professional quality, the kind serious artists used. Maria had cried. This is too much. Nothing is too much for someone pursuing their passion. She'd hugged him, this man who'd saved her life by offering simple kindness. He hugged back and Maria realized he felt like family now. The father figure she'd lost when her own dad died. The student art show was scheduled for Friday evening. Maria was nervous, her paintings already hung on the gallery walls. Helen had arranged the pieces beautifully, creating a cohesive flow. These are good, Helen said, studying Maria's work. Really good. You have a future in this if you want it. I want it. The opening was crowded. Friends, family, local art enthusiasts. Maria wore a green dress and smiled until her face hurt. People actually bought artwork. Not hers yet, but being in a show where sales happen felt validating. Then James, the gallery owner she'd met months before, appeared. He studied her paintings for a long time, not saying anything. Maria's stomach was in knots. Finally he turned to her. These are remarkable. Especially for someone so new to the medium. How long have you been painting? About 4 months. That's it? Incredible. Have you thought about doing a solo show? Maria blinked. A solo show? At my gallery. Small scale, maybe 15 to 20 pieces. You'd need to keep working, build up your portfolio. But I think there's a market for your style. It's emotional without being sentimental. Accessible but sophisticated. I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it. Here's my card. Call me when you have enough pieces. After he left, Maria found Jonathan standing in front of her largest painting. It was abstract, layers of blue and green and white creating depth and movement. "This one's my favorite," he said. "Mine too. It reminds me of the ocean near where Catherine and I honeymooned. We went to Maine, rented a little cottage. The water was freezing but beautiful. I was thinking about freedom when I painted it. About being untethered. You captured it." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching people move through the gallery. Maria felt a profound sense of gratitude. Not just for Jonathan's help, but for everything that had led her here. Even the pain. Even Greg's cruelty. It had all been necessary to get to this moment. "Thank you," she said softly, "for believing in me before I could believe in myself. You did the work. I just held space for you." Across town, Greg saw photos from the art show on social media. Someone he used to work with had attended and posted pictures. There was Maria, smiling, surrounded by people who looked genuinely happy for her. He threw his phone across the room. It shattered against the wall. His mother heard the noise and came downstairs. "What's wrong now?" "She's at some fancy art show. Living her best life. While I'm stuck here in your basement." "Then do something about it. Get a job. Move on. Stop obsessing over a woman who doesn't want you." "She does want me. She just doesn't know it yet. He's poisoned her against me." His mother looked at him with something like pity. "Gregory, she left you for a reason. Multiple reasons probably. Either accept that and move forward or stay miserable. Those are your only options." She went back upstairs. Greg sat in the dark, anger churning in his gut. This wasn't over. It couldn't be over. He deserved better than this. Spring arrived with warm breezes and blooming flowers. Maria had been living in the guest house for 7 months. She'd saved enough money to afford her own place now, a small apartment near the gallery. Helen was helping her look. "Are you sure you want to move out?" Jonathan asked when she told him. "I need to stand on my own. You've been so generous, but I can't stay here forever." "You can stay as long as you need." "I know. But I need to do this for myself." They found a place the following week. Nothing fancy, just a 1-bedroom on the 3rd floor of an older building. But it had good light and was close to both the gallery and her art classes. Maria signed the lease with shaking hands, her first apartment in her own name. The painting had accelerated. She was working on new pieces constantly, developing her style. Tom said she was ready to branch out, maybe join a more advanced class. James from the West Side Gallery had called twice to check on her progress. "I think I'll have enough pieces for a show by fall," she told him. "Perfect. Let's plan for October. We'll need to coordinate with my schedule, but I'm excited about this." A solo show. Her own work on gallery walls with her name featured. It felt surreal. Moving day was chaos. Maria didn't have much, but what she had needed to be carefully transported. Sophie and Lucas came to help. Jonathan hired movers for the furniture he'd given her, insisting she take the bed and couch and kitchen table from the guest house. "I'll just get new stuff," he said when she protested. "You've already given me too much. Let me do this, please. It makes me happy to help." Ruth packed boxes of food and supplies. "You need to eat properly. None of this ramen nonsense young people think is a meal." By evening, Maria's new apartment was organized. Simple but comfortable. Her paintings hung on the walls. Books filled the shelves. Plants sat on the windowsills, gifts from Sophie. They ordered pizza and sat on the floor eating and laughing. Jonathan told stories about Catherine, about the early days of Pierce Industries. Ruth shared recipes and gossip from the neighborhood. Sophie talked about her thesis project, a series of portraits exploring identity. "To new beginnings," Lucas said, raising his soda can. They all clinked their drinks together. After everyone left, Maria stood in her empty living room and cried. Happy tears. Grateful tears. She'd done it. She'd built a life from nothing. The next few months passed in a blur. Work at the gallery was busier than ever. Helen had promoted her to co-manager, giving her more responsibility and better pay. Maria was learning the business side of art, understanding pricing and marketing and client relations. Her art classes progressed. She'd moved into an advanced workshop that met twice a week. The other students were serious artists, some with gallery representation and real careers. Being among them pushed Maria to improve. She started dating again casually. Coffee with a guy she met at a bookstore. Dinner with someone Sophie introduced her to. Nothing serious, but she was learning to trust again. Learning that not all men were like Greg. One date stood out. His name was Anthony, a high school art teacher who collected vintage records and made terrible puns. They had coffee, then dinner, then started seeing each other regularly. He was kind, funny, respected her boundaries. But after 2 months, Maria realized something was missing. "You're a wonderful person," she told him over dinner. "But I think we're better as friends." Anthony smiled sadly. "I had a feeling. You're not really present when we're together. Still healing from something? Something like that." "I get it. Take your time. The right person will wait." They parted amicably. Maria felt relieved. She wasn't ready for serious yet. Maybe she never would be. And that was okay. Greg had moved to another city 3 hours away. Maria heard through Sophie, who heard through someone else. He'd found a job selling insurance, nothing like what he'd done before. His mother had finally kicked him out, tired of supporting him. "Good for him," Maria said when she heard. "I hope he figures things out. You're incredibly gracious. I'd still be plotting revenge." "Revenge for what?" "He doesn't occupy space in my head anymore. That's the best revenge." The solo show was scheduled for October 15th. James had sent out invitations, posted on social media, reached out to collectors and critics. It was real. It was happening. Maria worked constantly, finishing the last few pieces. She decided on 23 paintings total, all exploring themes of water and transformation and freedom. James loved them. "This is going to be special," he said at the preview. "I can feel it." The week before the opening, Maria's brother flew in from California with his wife and baby daughter. She hadn't seen them since before the divorce. Sam hugged her tight. "Look at you. Thriving. I'm so proud." They spent the weekend together, Sam meeting her friends and seeing her apartment and hearing about everything that had happened. His wife Lauren was warm and funny. Baby Amy was adorable, grabbing at everything with chubby hands. "Mom and Dad would be so proud," Sam said. "You took something terrible and made it beautiful." The night before the opening, Maria couldn't sleep. She paced her apartment, looking at the paintings that hadn't made the show, wondering if she'd chosen the right ones. Jonathan had offered to come early and help her set up. Sophie was bringing a photographer friend to document everything. "It's just one night," Maria told herself. "Just a few hours. You can do this." But it was more than that. It was proof that she'd survived. That she'd become someone new. Someone strong. The gallery was packed. Maria stood in the corner, overwhelmed by the turnout. Her paintings hung on the walls, spotlit and matted and looking more professional than she'd dared imagine. People clustered around them, reading the titles, discussing the brushwork, the color choices, the emotional impact. Jonathan stood with her, steady and calm. "Breathe. You've got this." "What if they hate it?" "They don't. Look at them. They're moved." It was true. Maria could see it in people's faces. The way they leaned closer to study details. The way some paintings made them smile, others made them thoughtful. James approached with a woman in expensive clothes. "Maria, this is Evelyn Chin. She collects emerging artists. She's interested in 3 of your pieces." "3?" Maria's voice squeaked. "I love your use of color," Evelyn said. "These speak to me. I'd like to purchase Untethered, Free Fall, and New Dawn. If they're still available." "They are." "Yes. Thank you." After Evelyn moved on, Maria grabbed Jonathan's arm. "Did that just happen?" "That just happened. And there's more. See the man in the blue shirt? He's a collector from San Francisco. And the woman by the door is an art critic for the City magazine. I might throw up." "Don't throw up on your opening night. Bad for sales." Maria laughed, some of the tension releasing. Sophie appeared with her photographer friend, who'd been documenting everything. "You're trending on local art social media. People are loving your work." The evening continued in a blur. Maria sold 7 paintings by the end of the night. 7. At prices that would have seemed impossible 6 months ago. Helen was beaming, proud of her protege. Tom from the painting class came and gave her a huge hug. "You did it. You really did it. I couldn't have without you. Without all of you." Sam and Lauren stayed until the end, Amy asleep in her stroller. "We're so proud," Lauren said. "She's going to grow up hearing about her amazing aunt." As people filed out, Maria found herself alone with Jonathan. They stood in front of her largest piece, the one she'd called Sanctuary. Blues and greens and whites, creating something peaceful and powerful at once. "This one's not for sale," Maria said. "I'm giving it to you. For everything you've done." Jonathan looked surprised. "Maria, you could sell this for a substantial amount." "I know. But I want you to have it. You gave me Sanctuary when I needed it most. This is my thank you." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I'd be honored." They stood together in the empty gallery, surrounded by Maria's art. Catherine would have loved this, Jonathan said softly. She always said that art was proof of the human spirit's resilience, that we create beauty even from pain. She was right. She usually was. Maria thought about the night Greg had thrown her out. How she'd stood in the rain, believing she had nothing left. How wrong she'd been. "Do you know what the best part of all this is?" she said. "What?" "I'm happy. Actually genuinely happy. Not pretending. Not just getting by. But really happy. I didn't think that was possible. It's always possible. Sometimes we just need to let the old version of ourselves die so the new one can emerge." They left together, James locking up behind them. The night was cool and clear, stars visible despite the city lights. Maria's phone buzzed. A text from Helen. 8 more sold online. "You're officially a success." She showed Jonathan, who grinned. "Told you." "You did." "I should have listened." "Yes, you should have. But stubbornness is also part of your charm." 6 months after the gallery show, Maria stood in the grocery store produce section, examining avocados. She'd just come from meeting with a gallery in New York interested in representing her work. Life was busy, full, exactly what she dreamed it could be. She reached for a tomato at the same moment someone else did. Their hands collided. "Sorry," she said automatically, looking up. "Greg." Older, thinner, with the look of someone beaten down by life. He was wearing a cheap suit, probably from a discount store. His cart held ramen and frozen dinners, the food of someone barely surviving. They stared at each other. Maria waited for the fear, the anger, the hurt. None came. She felt nothing but distant pity. "Maria," Greg said. His voice lacked the venom it once had. He just sounded tired. "You look good." "Thank you. I heard about your art show. Saw some pictures online. Congratulations." "Thanks." An awkward silence stretched between them. Greg shifted his weight, looking at the floor. "I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I was cruel. You didn't deserve any of it." Maria studied him. The apology seemed genuine, born from actually facing consequences rather than just wanting something. "I appreciate that. I hope you're doing okay." "Getting by. Working sales. It's not much, but it's honest work." "That's good." "Are you and Pierce, together?" "No. He's a friend. Was a friend when I needed one. Still is." Greg nodded slowly. "I get it now. What I lost. I was thinking about what I wanted, what made me comfortable, what made me feel important. I never thought about what you needed. We weren't right for each other. That's all. I wasn't right for you. You were too good for me. I just couldn't see it." Maria felt a strange sense of closure. This was the conversation she'd needed months ago, the acknowledgement that she wasn't crazy, wasn't worthless, wasn't the problem. "I hope you find peace," she said gently. "I really do. You too. Though it looks like you already did." She picked up her tomatoes and moved on. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. In the parking lot, she called Jonathan. "You won't believe who I just ran into." "Greg." "How did you know?" "Lucky guess." "How was it?" "Fine. Weird." He apologized. "I think he actually meant it." "Good for him. Better late than never." "I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness. Just nothing." "Is that normal?" "It's healthy. It means you've moved on." That evening, Maria painted. A new piece, something different from her usual style. Reds and oranges and yellows, warm and vibrant and alive. Not the cool blues and greens of her earlier work. This was fire, passion, joy. She called it Phoenix. A year after the solo show, Maria opened her own small gallery. Nothing fancy, just a space where she could show her work alongside other emerging artists. Jonathan invested as a silent partner, refusing to let her pay him back. "Consider it paying forward," he said. "Someone helped me once. This is me doing the same." The gallery's opening night was perfect. Her friends, her brother's family, collectors who'd followed her work. Helen came and cried, proud of how far her former assistant had come. Maria stood in the middle of her gallery, surrounded by art and people and possibility. She thought about the woman she'd been, standing in the rain with nothing. She thought about Greg's words, "No one will ever want you." He'd been so wrong. People wanted her work. People valued her friendship. People loved her for who she was. But most importantly, she wanted herself. She valued herself. She loved the person she'd become. That was the real victory. Not the gallery or the sales or the recognition. But the quiet knowledge that she was enough. She'd always been enough. Jonathan raised his glass of champagne. "To Maria, who taught me that kindness is never wasted. To new beginnings, Sophie added. To resilience, said Sam. Maria looked around at all these people who'd helped her become herself. To all of us. To surviving. To thriving. To choosing joy. They drank together, celebrating not just her success but the journey that had led there. The hard parts and the beautiful parts and everything in between. Outside, the city lights sparkled. Inside, Maria's art glowed under gallery lights. And in her heart, finally, there was peace. The story ends with Maria having built a life beyond anything she imagined possible. Not because a man saved her, but because she saved herself. Jonathan provided support, but Maria did the work. She faced her fears, developed her talents, and created a life filled with purpose and passion. Greg's apology gave her closure, but she didn't need his validation. She'd found her own worth. And in the end, that was the happiest ending of all.